Hi everyone, welcome back to Newegg TV. My name is Paul, and today we're going to be taking a closer look at this series of power supplies from FSP Group. This is the Aurum series of 80 plus gold certified power supplies, and we have the 400, 500, 600, and 700 watt versions to share with all of you folks out there. And yes, sometimes I wear glasses. Alright guys, for starters I'm going to go over the features that apply to all four of these power supplies, and then I will move on and unbox each one individually so you guys can see the differences between them. First off is our 80 plus gold logo down there in the bottom left corner. All four of these power supplies are 80 plus gold certified. That means that at 20% load they will give 87% efficiency, at 50% load they'll give 90% efficiency, and at 100% load they will give 87% efficiency. And those are the minimum standards for meeting 80 plus gold certification standards. ROHS compliant, of course. And now for the features that FSP has added, they have multiple intelligence ability chipset. Essentially what this is doing is it's giving you additional overvoltage protection to ensure the maximum protection of your capacitors. Also, it will actively adjust based on the power output that's needed. It will adjust to improve the power supply's overall efficiency. Next up is Aeroflow technology. That's basically some enhanced cooling for the power supply. Hybrid Synergy 12-volt rail design. They are using dual 12-volt rails, 18 amps on each rail for the 500 and 400 watt versions, and they're using 4 12-volt rails for the 600 and 700 watt versions. Of course, we have 99% active power factor correction. Capacitors are 105 degrees Celsius rated, Japanese-made capacitors for longer lifespan. Quiet and durable cooling, as mentioned. Full safety approved, and let me see if I can read off all of these. We have over voltage protection, under voltage protection, over current protection, short circuit protection, over temperature protection, and over power protection, all built in. Finally, right here we see SB ready, and I'm going to assume that that is Sandy Bridge. I can't see what else that might be, so if you are building a system based on Intel's new Generation 2 core processors, you will be supported with this power supply. And this is an ATX 12 volt version 2.3 or EPS 12 volt version 2.92 compliant power supply. So we're starting off with the Aurum Series Gold 400 watt power supply. I'm just going to go ahead and take this out of the box, show you guys everything that is included. Again, this power supply is built around dual 12 volt rails with 18 amps on each rail. Here is your power supply installation guide. It looks like this is a black and white printed guide with several languages, although that is Chinese. Aha. English is on page 7. Alright. There is your basic installation and information for the power supply as listed in the FSP power supply quick start guide and manual. There is your included AC adapter cable. And here is the power supply itself. It has a fairly unique fan design on the top. You can see it's got a nice texture on the finish. It's hard to describe exactly what that texture is, but it definitely is textured. It's got sort of a tough look to it. The power supply specs and whatnot are here on the top. You can see the ventilation area there at the back. Those where you plug in the AC power and the on-off switch. Now, all of our power supply cables are in this bundle right here, but FSP has actually done a really good job on the box itself of listing off all these connectors. So rather than unbundle all of these, we're just going to do a close-up of the box so I can list you guys the connectors that are included with the 400 watt version. Alright guys, so for our motherboard power connector, we have a 20 plus 4 pin, so compatible with the older 20 pin or newer 24 pin motherboard power connectors. We have a single 6 plus 2 pin PCI Express power connector, so if you have a 6 pin or 8 pin power requirement on your video card, it will work for either one, but only a single plug for that. Keep that in mind. 4 plus 4 pin supplemental motherboard power, that's EPS or ATX power, so you can be compatible with the 4-pin or 8-pin version of that. We have serial ATA, serial ATA, serial ATA, serial ATA, so a 4-plug serial ATA cable, and then we have a floppy Molex, Molex, Molex. So you get 4 serial ATA plugs overall, 3 Molex plugs, and a single floppy connector. And that pretty much wraps it up for the 400 watt version. Let's move on to 500 watt. Next up is the RM Series Gold 500. This is the 500 watt model. Again, this one is also based on dual 12 volt 18 amp rails. Again, we have the same included power supply manual. Again, here is the power supply itself. There's not going to be a whole lot of difference between the look of all of these power supplies, but a couple things that I didn't mention with the 400 watt version. This does apply to all of these, but you do get a little plastic baggie here with your mounting thumb screws. These are black thumb screws to mount to your case. You also get a little FSP badge for your case, and it looks like 3 Velcro strips that you can use to tie down your cables. So some nice accessories there. Also, I guess you get one additional Velcro strip because that is how these cables are bunched up. But also all of these cables have some nice sleeving on them to make sure that they stay nice and contained and make sure you get plenty of airflow. It's great to have sleeves on those cables, as is very common with more modern power supplies. But let's take another look at the cables available here with the 500 watt version. We can see again the standard 20+4 pin motherboard connector. We have 2 PCI Express power connectors. So you have a 6+2 and another 6+2. So if you have 6-pin dual, or an 8-pin and a 6-pin, or an 8-pin and an 8-pin, you can supply power to your video card with those 2 plugs. Beyond that, we have again the 4+4 pin ATX EPS power connector. We have 1 power cable for peripherals with 2 Molex and 2 SATA plugs. We have 1 peripheral power cable with 3 SATA plugs. And then we have a final one with 2 Molex and a single floppy. So all told, you get 5 serial ATA peripheral power cables, you get 4 Molex peripheral power cables, and you get a single floppy peripheral power cable. Next up, we have the RM Series Gold 600 watt power supply. Again, these are all fairly similar, so I will try to be quick in my overview of this one. Same power supply booklet. Same power supply housing. One thing I did not mention is this is a 120 millimeter fan on the power supply. It is PWM controlled. It's nice to have. Again, same accessories and power cable. And to go over our plugs and connectors for the 600 watt, we have again the 20+4 pin motherboard power connector. We have 3 6+2 pin PCI Express connectors. So we have 1 cable that has 2 plugs on it, 2 6+2s. We have another cable with a single 6+2, so you get 3 PCI Express power connectors total on the 600 watt version. Moving down the line, pretty similar for the rest. 4+4 pin motherboard supplemental power. 1 double Molex double SATA peripheral power connector. Another double Molex double SATA peripheral power connector. And then finally a double SATA single floppy peripheral power connector. So for serial ATA, you get 6 peripheral plugs overall. For Molex, you get 4, and for floppy, you get a single. And that wraps it up for the 600 watt version. Lastly, we have the RM Series Gold 700 watt power supply. This power supply, just like the 600 watt, is based on a 4-rail design. So we have 4 12 volt 18 amp rails powering this power supply. Once again, the look of the power supply and accessories is going to be pretty much identical to the other 3 we've seen so far, with the exception, of course, of our grip of cables that we have right there. There's the power supply, there's the cables, there's our accessories, and our AC adapter plug. Let us go over the cables that are tied up in that bundle right there, and that will wrap things up. We have, of course, the 20+4 pin motherboard power connector, and here we have plenty of power for an SLI or Crossfire configuration. So we actually have 4 PCI Express power plugs. All of those are 6+2 pins, so they will all fit either 6 or 8 pin PCI Express power plugs. So you have plenty of power for your video card there. Moving down the line, we have a 8-pin 4+4 supplemental motherboard power, ATX or EPS. We have 1 peripheral power plug here with 4 SATA plugs on it. We have another one here with 2 Molex and 2 SATAs. And then we have a final one with a floppy, 2 Molexes, and 1 SATA. So all told, for SATA peripherals, you get 7 plugs. For Molex peripherals, you get 4 plugs. And again, 1 floppy plug. And that wraps it up for the 700 watt version of the RM series. Thank you very much for watching today's video, everyone. Once again, this has been the FSP Group's series of 80+ gold certified power supplies, the Aurum series, 400, 500, 600, and 700 watt versions. My name is Paul with Newegg TV. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.